This is the Haulin Assets podcast, where we show you how to start and run your own trucking company. Ever wanted to go out on your own? Follow Chris as he goes through the highs and lows of running on his own authority.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Haulin Assets podcast, episode number 139. I am your very perky host, Craig. And over there, he's Chris. How's it going, Chris?
I'm doing well. How about you? This is like my element.
We are recording early in the morning. Chris has got to catch a flight. So instead of my usual late afternoon libations, I've got my coffee. I'm ready, Chris.
Yeah, this is something different. You know what? I was thinking about this on the drive in. We're definitely not gonna have to deal with recording this early.
The Air Force.
The Air Force. Yeah, they're sure as hell not out of bed yet.
Says the Army guy. Well, you know what? If you don't have to be, right?
Well, yeah, I can't blame them. They were smart. You're smart if you got in the Air Force instead of the Army.
My whole family, my mom's side of the family are all Air Force. So my cousin actually he's a colonel, and he got switched over to Space Force when that happened, and so he opened up the Space Force base in Colorado years ago.
Wow,
so
that's cool.
It was pretty cool. Yeah,
it'd be exciting to be. I mean, that's a new frontier, and it's
so to speak.
Yeah, probably a pretty interesting thing to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, let's bring this crashing back down to earth, and instead of spaceships, let's talk about trucks.
Okay.
Shall we?
Let's do
Chris,
trucks.
Today's topic, dispatching.
Yes.
Which I'm going to kick off in just a moment. But before I do that, of course, I have to remind everybody to go to haulinassetsllc.com for full show notes, links, all that stuff. You can also go to motorcarrierhq.com for the tools, tips, and people that can help you make the transition from an employee driver to an owner operator. Let's see, what else am I forgetting, Chris? Oh, you can get merch there too.
You can merch, you can get all kinds of things.
Yeah. So go to motorcarrierhq.com, check out the merch. Chris and I are both proudly flying our Haulin Assets t-shirts today. All right. So now that we've got that out of the way, Chris, let's talk dispatching. Or unless you have anything else you want to talk about first, or do you want to dive right in?
Not really, other than, this would normally be a financial episode based on our typical cadence, but I'm a slacker. I've had a lot going on the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you're a slacker.
I am a slacker. I'm flying out of town early Tuesday morning. I usually have Tuesday to kind of work on things when I'm behind, and I just don't quite have the financials, the books closed for the month of September yet, so...
Well, based on what you were saying last time, it's okay. We want to put off the pain, right?
We may want, yeah. September's probably not going to be a great month. October, on the other hand, at this point, so far in the month, is looking optimistically good. I'm gonna cross my fingers, and we have all the trucks running, and gotten some decent loads, and You're
such a tease, Chris.
I'm excited for October. See what happens.
All right. So yeah, I wish I had the camera on you in that moment, because then I could create a great GIF of Chris shivering in anticipation.
Excitement.
Okay. So dispatching, Chris. Let's talk about dispatching, kind of how it has been for Haulin Assets. You've been working with, remind me his name. Jake up in Idaho, right? He lives up in Idaho.
Blackfoot area.
In Blackfoot. Don't mean to out you, Jake. Don't worry, we're not going to dox your address. But Jake has been doing your dispatching for you for, 4 years now?
Yeah. 4 years. Jake and his sister Brandy's been helping out the last couple of years as well. So
excellent.
The two of them.
And how's it been going? It's
Jake. It's been going well. Yeah, like Jake. Nothing wrong with Jake per se, but we're going to make a big change.
And what's that?
We're going to bring it in-house.
Oh.
So we've I kind of want to give a little bit of history about this. Obviously, like you said, we've been working with Jake. And ever since we kind of started growing, we've had this conversation with Jake that at some point we're going to outgrow Year 20 dispatch and kind of what he can do. And it's going to make more sense, rather than paying him to do what he does, to bring it in-house and do it ourselves.
Tell me again, what was the name of his company?
Your 20 Dispatch.
Your 20.
Yep.
Okay. So your and then 20. I figured we might as well give him a shout out.
Yeah. If you're looking for a dispatcher, Jake's been great for us. I highly recommend him. He cares and works hard, and he balances a lot of things really well. And dispatching is not an easy job.
It honestly, it sounds like, just personality wise, that is my actual personal hell. Thank God for people like Jake, because I don't have the organizational fortitude required to do a job like that.
Like, to be able to do it well, like, you have to multitask like beyond what most people are capable of doing.
So anyway, so shout out to Jake. So it's been 4 years now with Jake, but you said, we are going to outgrow you eventually, and you feel like you're at that point then.
Yes and no. We are, but we're actually kind of doing this probably a little sooner than we would have otherwise. And really it's kind of boiled down to why are we doing it now? It's a financial thing. Okay. Last episode we talked about many mickle make a muckle. Well, this is kind of one of our...
Yeah, thanks for bringing that phrase back up.
This is one of our bigger mickles. It's a change that we feel like we need to make to be able to bring Haulin Assets back in line with being financially stable. I mean, it's a pretty big expense. It's one of our bigger expenses every month, what we pay for our dispatching service. And it's, it's been worth it, but we're getting to the point, scale size wise, that we're on that cusp of where it's starting to make sense to do it ourselves. And, when we're looking at, okay, we need to look at seriously what expenses should we cut? Do we need to cut? And we feel like this one's one that at this point, to kind of help us get in more stable footing, we need to do. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make that transition slowly. And this is one of the things that we've talked about with Jake, for a couple of years now, that when the time comes, we want to give him ramp time to kind of be able to not suffer too much on his side of the business. And it's actually, to do it slowly is good for us too. So kind of the plan is over the next 5 to 6 months, we're going to bring on 2 trucks a month and do it
6 months?
For roughly 6 months. And that'll bring all of our trucks from Jake to us.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So not adding 6 trucks.
I said, what?
Yeah. So we'll bring 2 trucks that from Jake's dispatching to us.
And so who's going to be doing that dispatching in-house then? Don't say it. Chris, don't. You know what? You're looking at me like this and you're making me nervous.
Yours truly.
Oh, boy.
At least for probably 6 months to a year. For a lot of different reasons. One of them, we've kind of come together as, with Brad, with Chet, with Nate, and they're going to kind of take some of the responsibilities off of my shoulder. We're going to do some things to kind of make it so that
you're shuffling. You're not just adding.
Yeah. And Nate's taking a role in this too. Nate has the better relationships. He's done more of the networking with our direct shippers. So he's actually going to take the lead on finding and kind of coordinating those loads for the most part. I'm going to do most of the, what we need to find on the spot market and that kind of thing. And so, we've actually already started. I've been, we brought the first 2 trucks over last week, and I've been doing it for about a week now. And it's been a good experience. It's been a learning experience. Yeah. It's kind of one of those things where I'm like super excited, but also kind of dread it, because it's a lot of work. It's going to be, kind of like drinking out of a fire hose for a little while. Like I know dispatching well, but I'll still have a lot to learn.
I mean, there's a difference between knowing and doing, right? Yeah. And until you do, you don't truly know, right?
For sure.
So, this is, as Vice President Joe Biden would say, this is a big effing deal. This is a lot. It's a lot to take on.
It is a lot.
Okay, so 6 months transition, a couple trucks a month, bringing those over. You're going to be doing this. Is there a plan eventually to have an in-house dispatcher, or is this going to be a shared responsibility going forward for this foreseeable future? Because that would be a huge expense, right? To bring on a full-timer. At
some point, yes. But honestly, a full-time employee, probably at the level that we would bring on to do this, it would be less expensive than what we're currently paying your 20 dispatch.
Yeah.
So in the long run, yes, we'll probably hire one, maybe even two employees to kind of help with the dispatching piece. But that's, like I said, that's down the road. I'm going to do this for 6 months to a year. And I think there's more than just to save on the expense. And there's more reason behind having me do it. I think if I can do it for 6 months to a year and kind of really develop some good processes, systems, procedures, on dispatching, it'll make it easier to train new people when they come on board, and make it so that they're more effective. And so that's a good reason to have me do it for a while. And the other thing is, I think it'll, make some really good content for a podcast that I do.
Well, yes, now you're talking. Now you're speaking my language. We'll have topics. We'll have tips and tricks. And
I think we'll probably do a lot of episodes that center around dispatching and finding loads.
Well,
so I think it'll be good.
That was the magic of the first year of podcasts, was when you were in the truck. We got to make a lot of fun of you for the mistakes that you made, right?
Yeah, there will be some of that for sure.
Let's bring it back, Chris.
Yep.
Okay, so looking forward into the future, let's see. You said there's going to be some shared responsibility between you and Nate and some others. What is that going to look like? How are you guys going to divvy that up? Is it all just kind of, hey, you're going to take the next 2 trucks, and I'll show you the ropes? I
think probably for the first 6 or so, it'll probably be just me mostly doing that outbound stuff. So Nate's going to be doing the direct shipper stuff. Excuse me. I'm going to also probably do a little bit of cross training with Nate and Brad, so they can kind of back me up when like I'm in a meeting or I'm not available, or
you want to take a freaking vacation or something.
I need to take a vacation. Yeah. They'll kind of back me up a little bit. And then they'll also, I mean, again, that's one of in an organization, it's very beneficial and healthy to have as many people as possible kind of know how to do a job. And so that'll help. But we're kind of transitioning some responsibilities that, like we'll probably shift some stuff from Brad to Nate so that maybe Brad can help me out a little bit. We haven't really nailed down exactly what that means yet. Yeah. I think the big moving pieces of that are probably a month or 2 away.
Right.
But one of the other things, speaking about the organization of Haulin Assets that we want to be absolutely sure of is we're trying to do this in a manner that's going to cause the least amount of disruption with our drivers.
Jinx.
So yeah. Can I hit? I hit you right?
No. You owe me a Coke. I think is it?
Okay, yeah. I'll buy you a Coke.
That sounds much nicer than getting decked by an army guy. Okay, so minimal impact on the drivers. Tell me, the ignorant moron, not the very smart truckers who are listening to this, but do they interface directly with Jake or with a dispatcher, or has it always been kind of through your software that they're getting their...
Yeah, they definitely interact with that Brandy and Jake, those two for the most part. Anything when a driver has a question about anything that deals with a load or anything like that, it's always they're working with whoever's dispatching them.
So now you're going to force them to talk to you more.
Yeah. I've Don and Brad have had probably their fair share of me in the last week.
Okay, right on. All right, I'm just trying to get a picture of what that's going to look like. Any other impact for the drivers that I'm not thinking of?
It shouldn't. Along with kind of this transition, last week, the last episode when we talked about some of the little changes that we're making, it's going to be easier to integrate those with me dispatching, specifically on, coordinating like an early pickup on a load where, we can pick up a load it's scheduled to pick up on Tuesday, but you really don't have to leave till Wednesday. So the driver gets a little more home time. The truck gets essentially employed sooner. I'll be able to coordinate that better with either me or Nate, because I can do that sometimes. He'll be able to do that sometimes. I think it'll make a lot of things smoother that way. And ultimately we want to make the drivers more efficient so that they get to drive more miles when they're on the road and be off when they're off.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of one of our big goals with this. And I think bringing the dispatching in-house will help with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, going forward then, as you said, we'll probably have plenty of episodes about this. We'll talk about, maybe we'll do a little retrospective in a couple of months and say, okay, how's it going? What have you been learning about dispatching? And then, we can also talk about how to train somebody in this, or what it looks like once you've got it all in-house. So yeah, we'll have plenty to talk about, I think, over the next few months. But is there anything else on this subject that you want to go through today?
Not really. That's kind of it. Just kind of want to let everybody know what we're doing and hopefully get people excited to hopefully have some pretty good podcast episodes in the next 6 months or a year.
Well, I'll tell you what I'd love, Chris, is I would love if, a week or a month from now, you get a call from Jake and Jake says, hey, thanks. I got 3 calls from your listeners.
Yeah, I hope so. That would be nice.
Who were looking for dispatchers. So you're 20, Y-O-U-R, you're 20 dispatching.
Yeah. And if you can't find them for some reason, feel free to shoot me an email, chris@haulinassetsllc.com, and I'll get you in contact with Jake.
Yep. Yeah. Sounds great. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, we need to get you to the airport, Chris. But before you go, this is a pretty short episode. And you know what I do on short episodes.
Oh, you're going to tell us a story?
I'll tell you a little story.
Yes.
I know we need to get you out of here. But Chris, I recently went to Germany. I think I mentioned this to the listeners because we had to record a week ahead of time so I could get out of town. What I did in Germany was I put a backpack on my back, and I didn't do the European backpacking thing where you take your backpack from the hotel to the train and then go to the next town, right? I walked about 100 miles from Nuremberg to Munich to go to Oktoberfest.
That's so cool.
It was my my own little personal beer pilgrimage, right? It was amazing.
I'll bet it was.
It was so.
How many pints of beer did you drink?
I don't want to talk about it. Okay. All right. So
your liver okay?
It's, you know what? The coffee this morning is helping quite a bit. No, this was a few weeks ago now. So anyway, but what I did was, starting in around Nuremberg, walked south and then hit just like 5 different little towns on my way. And when I say little, the biggest place I went was Ingolstadt. That's where the Audi factory is. But mostly it was tiny, like 20 house villages with one hotel in the middle of it, or an inn, right? Something straight out of a Western or like a fantasy book or something, where you got the inn in the middle of town and the stranger walks in. Like, that was me. And the whole room would turn and look at me like, what the heck?
What's this guy?
Who are you? Like, people don't come here. Like, I came here.
Who's this guy wearing this Haulin Assets podcast shirt?
Everywhere he goes. So the story goes, in the first village I stopped at, the first day of walking, I went 18 miles. I'm tired. My feet hurt. My buddy's with me. He tapped out after that day. It was a tough day. He couldn't keep doing the walk. I kept going. But anyway, we walk into this hotel, sit down for dinner, and there are 2 people there who speak English. One was one of the waitresses, and she spoke pretty good English, but then the other one was a patron there. So this guy who lived in the little village, and he came over and he heard us speaking English, and, hey, how are you doing? And sat down and got to know his story a little bit. This guy, his name was Alois, the anglicized version of however he says his name, right? But the story of Alois was, he says, I said, where do you speak English? He goes, I learned it in Missouri. I lived in Missouri in the 80s. What did you do in Missouri in the 80s? Tiny German village man, Alois. He says, I drove truck.
Yes, you're kidding me.
Says, I drove truck in Missouri in the 80s. And I don't know who it was for. I think it was pretty regional or local. But he said all of his coworkers couldn't pronounce his name. He goes, but I was womanizer. And so they gave me a nickname. I said, what was your nickname, Alois? He goes, Randy Andy.
That's funny.
And anyway, so Randy Andy and I sat, we drank and talked for 2 hours in delightfully broken English together. And he kept feeding me raspberry schnapps, which was like that town's specialty. And it was an absolutely delightful evening. And he'll never hear this, but shout out to Alois, or Randy Andy, as we like to call him.
That was his CB handle, Randy Andy.
Probably, yeah, probably. Anyway, yeah, it's
Ladies run.
you just never know who you're going to run into on an adventure like that.
That's a pretty cool story. I mean, what are the odds of that? That you on your walk in Germany would run into a guy that drove truck in Missouri.
Yeah.
Man, that's pretty cool.
And me, the kind of long-haired hippie podcaster, gets to say, so what kind of equipment were you on?
He's driving a Pete, I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, he does seem the type. All right, so there you go. Thus ends this episode of Haulin Assets. So like I said, go to haulinassetssllc.com, go to motorcarrierhq.com, buy that merch. We want to see you proudly waving that flag. So if you send us a picture of you in your Haulin Assets gear, a hat or a t-shirt, whatever you end up getting, I think we'd like to put that on the Facebook
sweet.
page.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll send you a picture of me and Randy Andy for you to put up.
Awesome.
And anyway, everybody, thanks for listening. We will keep you up to date on financials and dispatching and all that stuff here going forward. And we will see you next time.
See you then.